Good morning, children. How are you all? Fine. Okay. Dear students, now is the session of economics. In the previous session of economics, we had discussed about expenditure method of measuring national income. Okay. In that very method, we came to learn that by calculating or by adding private final consumption expenditure plus government final consumption expenditure plus gross domestic capital formation plus net export, we obtain GDP at market price. Okay. Once we obtain GDP at market price, then it becomes easy to drive other aggregates of national income like GNP, NDP, NNP, etc. etc. Okay. Now come to the questions which may be asked based on this method. Then children, if theoretical questions are asked, then there may be something like this. As briefly explain the expenditure method of measuring national income. Okay. Or the questions may be like this. What are the steps involved in estimation of national income through expenditure method? Or the question may be as briefly explain different sectors of the economy in which the economy is classified according to expenditure method. Okay, there may be some multiple choice questions also and 1 mark question also. So better you go through this topic in detail properly. The figure of private final consumption expenditure will be given. The figure of government final consumption expenditure will be given. And accordingly, other figures will also be given, by working on which you will get the aggregate, whatever is being asked. Okay? You will not get confusion in other components of final expenditure, but certainly you will have a little bit confusion in gross domestic product. Okay. So let us discuss today what is called gross domestic capital formation. Sorry, it is gross domestic capital formation. You know children, whatever expenditure is made by producing sector on so let us discuss today gross domestic capital formation and other important concepts. Okay. When we say gross domestic capital formation, then it refers to net increase in stock of capital or in stock of the assets of an economy. Okay. You know children, when a business firm or a producer makes expenses on fixed assets or the assets like them, then there is an increase in a stock of the capital of the country, and therefore it is called gross domestic capital formation. Okay. Since the producers make an expenditure on purchase of these fixed assets and the assets like this, therefore it is also called investment expenditure, or you can say gross investment or investment expenditure. Okay. You know children, this gross domestic capital formation has two major components. One is called gross domestic fixed capital formation and the other is called change in stock. Okay. So long as gross domestic fixed capital formation is concerned, it is also called fixed investment or gross fixed investment. Okay. Gross fixed investment or gross domestic fixed capital formation means expenditure by the producers on fixed assets about which we already know. Okay. Whatever is the gross domestic fixed capital formation has three main components, or it is also classified into three categories. Number one is called gross domestic capital formation. It is gross domestic capital formation. You know, children, whatever expenditure is made by producing sector on Yes, students, public investment means expenditures by the government on fixed assets which are used by public in general or which are collectively consumed, such as road, building, bridges, etc. The third important component of gross domestic fixed capital formation is household construction investment. Okay. What about this investment? It refers to the expenditures by households on fixed assets like construction of building, construction of houses, etc. Okay. So these are the three major components of gross domestic capital formation. Okay, gross domestic fixed capital formation. That means you can say gross domestic fixed capital formation is equal to gross business fixed investment plus public investment plus household construction investment. Okay, this is gross fixed investment, or you can say gross domestic fixed capital formation. All right. The next important component of gross domestic capital formation is the change in stock. Already we have discussed in the previous sessions that change in stock is the difference between closing stock and opening stock of raw materials, semi-finished goods and finished goods. Okay. Closing stock is the stock of these things at the end of accounting year, and opening stock is the stock of these things at opening of the accounting year. Okay. And the difference between these two as closing stock minus opening stock is equal to change in stock. Okay. You know, children, in fact, it is the expenditures made by producing sector on, and therefore it is also called inventory expenditure. That means gross domestic capital formation or gross investment is equal to gross domestic fixed capital formation plus change in stock. Okay. Gross domestic fixed capital formation is also called gross fixed investment, whereas change in stock is also called inventory investment. Okay. Thus, fixed investment plus inventory investment is equal to total investment, which means gross domestic capital formation. Okay. Children, In some of the numericals you will find that the value of gross domestic capital formation is directly given. Then you will have no confusion. But suppose it is not given and its components have been given separately, then by summing up these components in a sequence, you will get gross domestic capital formation. Okay? Now, we should conclude that national income or NNP at factor cost through expenditure method is equal to private final consumption expenditure plus government final consumption expenditure plus gross domestic capital formation plus change in stock. Okay? Minus depreciation minus net indirect tax and plus net factor income from abroad. Okay? This is the expenditure method. Already we have discussed. The practical problems you will do when your classes commence, or otherwise you can practice at home also. You may have purchased the textbooks, I think so. Now, what are the precautions to be taken while measuring national income through expenditure method? Okay? The precaution number 1, any expenditure on intermediate goods which we have studied is not included in national income. It is not a part of national income. Okay? Any expenditure on intermediate goods. Now, exports means selling goods and services to foreign sector or rest of the world sector, and imports means buying goods and services from foreign sector. Okay? Thus, export implies receipts from rest of the world sector, and imports implies payment to rest of the world sector. If you differentiate between export and import, you will get net export. Okay? So now things are very much clear. Once again, I would like to conclude that private final consumption expenditure plus government final consumption expenditure plus gross domestic capital formation plus net export is equal to GDP at market price, and GDP at market price minus depreciation is equal to NDP at market price, and NDP at market price minus net indirect tax is equal to NDP at factor cost. And if we add net factor income from abroad to NDP at factor cost, we obtain NNP at factor cost called national income. Okay? And this way the expenditure method of measuring national income is over today. Thank you very much.